Good evening, Ray.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
How you been?
Too bad. Yeah, take my tape off here.
Fancy camera cover, huh?
Well, I was told that that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, my camera fell off and I lost mine. I had to find it on the floor, bouncing around someplace. So,
Well,
little latch.
this unit's got one in already, so
What, you've been behaving yourself? Trying to?
yeah, I can't hear you too well. How do I crank up the volume on this stupid thing?
Let me see.
Record what did that? Video.
Does that, are you listening with speakers? You just turn up the hand crank on the speaker itself. That's one way of doing it.
Yeah, but I gotta find it. I maybe have to.
If you go down,
I know. Wait a minute. I'll do this. I'll do this.
You see a little arrow on the mute button? You open
That. No, that's not gonna do it. There we go. How's that? How's that?
You sound the same. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you better. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Now I gotta put you back in. Where the hell did I go with this thing? Full screen. There we go. Now I got you on full screen.
Well, I think next meeting we can try going back to in person if people want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how comfortable you feel. I've been hesitant, but we're gonna have the next Economic Development Commission meeting in person. I know that.
Yeah.
I know Terry Wakeman. I know he'd like to see it. So I got the room reserved. It looked like we're gonna go be back in the old room there, board and commission room.
Okay.
28th of September.
Yeah, if I don't mess up, I'll see you.
Yeah. Okay.
By the way, I read your dissertation, nice and short, to that meeting that you went to, and I would hope that somebody listened to what you said, because it was presented quite well.
I think they did. I mean, they had a special board of selectmen meeting this evening between the two towns again, and I didn't realize it until late. I joined on just the last minute, and that they were doing the final resolutions for the towns.
Yeah.
And they didn't read the one for Ashford. They basically said it was the same as the one for Wellington, but they did mention the thing about a master plan. So, and there's a few remarks. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and listen, but you know, I think there were a lot of ideas, great ideas presented at the meeting.
Really?
You know, everything could be viable. I mean, but I think you really have to, in the context of what's going on in the property, figure out what matches up, what's, you know, and balance the interest of the community on doing something that can maybe help the tax base. I mean, we've lost, I say we, the town of Ashford citizens have lost over $1 million in taxes.
Yeah.
But I mean, but I think there's something in it for everybody, but I think the best way to figure that out and determine that is to do a master plan, which does include a comprehensive public involvement process, so that everybody gets their say, and rightfully so.
Yeah,
so.
but what kind of a organization would you suggest they seek out for professional analysis, if you will, or review of that property?
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is the consultants that they had on board actually are one of them. I know that's one of the things that they do already is develop plans for reuse plans for brownfields. So I think, and I know that individual. I worked with that individual when I was working for a living, and they're capable of providing a plan. Remember, it'll be something that's still not down to the ground type thing. It's going to be maybe not 10,000, but maybe 1,000 foot to 500 foot view of what the capabilities are, and then what you
Yeah.
do from there is you develop a bunch of ideas that the community says this is what we think the uses are. These kind of align generically with what the property is capable of handling physically, and
Yeah.
in the context of the regulations, and
I'm
then from there you go and you
not sure I agree with you, Mike.
huh?
I'm not sure I agree with you. I think that's what's known as a way to suck up taxpayer money right there. If you're referring to the dudes that took $200,000 to tell us something we already knew, if you're referring to that crowd, I'm not sure I had a tremendous amount of faith in their capabilities. Just between you and I and the lamppost, I think there's a lot of slush talk that goes into that stuff, and I guess I'm too old and nasty to, to hold up on that. I think there has to be some real detail. As I pointed out in that note that I sent you, I think a very important feature for anything you want to do as far as buildings are concerned, do you have water? Do you have enough land to process for sewage?
Yeah, that's what this plan would do. Is you get
Really?
that level. Yeah, you get to
I think
you'd evaluate those characteristics of the property, align with potential uses, and at least you wouldn't do the design, but you'd be able to do a feasibility study.
I don't think that, no, the design, no, I'm not talking about design.
No, it's a
But I think
feasibility.
the town ought to ask for those particular assessments.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not high enough for, for this gossamer bit here, but I think they should ask for those issues. What do you need, no, really, but things like access, how many plots can you have? Is it can you use it commercially? Could, how much wetlands is available on the property? Where
Those
is
are
it
all part of it.
placed?
That's all part of what we're talking about. Yep. And understand, previously, the feds, the EPA and DEEP, they play by rules that most of us don't understand sometimes. It doesn't make sense, kind of in one sense, like you characterize it sometimes bureaucracy, but they have these little
rules.
They have these little boxes they have to check off, and our consultants, the town's consultants, were actually having to play and follow by those rules. It's and it's a lot of money that's spent from the outside looking in and saying, geez, why do we? But remember that EPA is hanging at $4.9 million bag over the towns of Wellington and Ashford's head, saying you've got to do these things or else we're not going to release that that lien on the property. So
no, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that when all is said and done, I don't want, I would not want to see the town with a nice 3-inch notebook full of gobbledygook that nobody can understand.
No, the plan would be what I had suggested in the master plan is to develop just what you're asking to determine the feasibility of what can be done on the property. And yes, you'd look at, on-site septic system capability, whether it is, water, out there for well capabilities, you'd look at, you delineate the wetlands, physically, so exactly where they are and what those limitations are. Access would be defined and determined. And then you look at, what regulations allow you to do what out there and what are the town's needs from the plan of conservation development.
But that's downstream though. Once you know what kind of, what you're really talking about, because I don't think anybody knows, at this particular point, whether there is sufficient water to have any kind of soft industry out there, or any kind of housing, or for that matter, any kind of, general business, a one-shot business, a single organization, for example. Where would you put the access to the place? And as far as the wetlands are concerned, are they susceptible to any kind of recreational function, which would be a big feature in getting townspeople to look at that area, with a friendly eye, because messing up 300 odd acres with industry or something would get everybody's knickers in a twist.
Yeah, I think everything you're talking about would be done, but it's an iterative process, and you don't know what you need until you know what you think you might want to do, and you might not know what you want to do unless you know what it's capable of being able to be done on the property. So it's a little bit of an iterative process. So, but anyhow, I think we got a quorum here, right? We need 3. Three's
Where do you see them? I only see
I
two
see
of us.
Maureen. Good
Hello.
morning. Hi, Maureen.
Oh, there she is.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Hi, Maureen.
I'm here.
See what? Oh, you're
I
breaking up.
thought maybe I joined late.
No.
I know, I'm not getting, you guys are breaking up. Can you get me now or no? Still breaking up?
A little bit better.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we could get started at least because I think 3 is what we need, as I remember. So at least we can get through some things, keep the ball rolling hopefully here. So I'll officially call the meeting to order here, 7:11. And sorry, Maureen, for our digression there.
no, it's interesting.
On being recorded. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from August 1st?
I moved
Okay.
to them.
Was I there?
Yes, you were.
Okay. I don't know.
All in favor?
Hi.
Okay, thank you. Communications and announcements. Anybody have anything you want to communicate other than Maureen? You heard us talking that one of the things we thought we might be involved in or not was this Cattle Rock, but the
Yeah.
towns had a public hearing last Thursday, and they solicited input, and then tonight they apparently had a special meeting to give some direction to their legal and technical team to file this application for the last bit of funding to finally remediate the site to the satisfaction of DEEP and EPA. So that was done. I don't know the details truthfully of the I missed it. I came on the last 2 seconds to 2 minutes of the meeting. So anyhow, but that our role is be peripheral unless we move forward with this other stuff, and they want us to help moderate or involved in any public informational. Good evening. So anyhow, that's where we're at. So any other announcements? The only other announcements I wanted to make is that a number of the other boards and commissions are beginning to meet in person, and so I did talk with Board of Selectmen about it. So I think if you all want, we can have our next meeting in person. Would that be the pleasure of this group? I see nods.
Yeah.
Okay. So now then I'll look to make our next meeting in October in person, probably in the old board and commission meeting room. I think is where it'll probably take place. So
Now that would go back to the first Monday then.
yes, yeah. I mean, the only reason we're tonight is because last Monday which was the first Monday, was a legal holiday. So typically we don't meet on a legal holiday. So we'll go back to the first Monday of the night. That
right.
also is with everybody's pleasure and keeping. We'll do that. Okay, going back to old business, fall leadership meeting. I did reach out to Jeff Silversmith, chairman of planning and zoning, about his interest in the commission board. I mean, planning and zoning's interest in kind of doing what we did the last time, that I thought went pretty well. And unfortunately, I did it late in the last week, so I haven't heard back from him to report whether he'd like to do that, but I will continue to pursue that. But I did kind of late to you send out information. I think you all probably have in your own file someplace, but I think thanks Glenn and Ray for sending some stuff my way as well, and rattling my cage a little bit. But I think if you look at any of that information, if you have a chance, it was pretty comprehensive. And you look at some of the things that came out of that meeting. I mean, I think I start reading some of that stuff, and some of that stuff may still be relevant, and it still may not have been acted upon. So I mean, if nothing else, we kind of can take even start this other next leadership meeting kind of where we left off, and kind of circle back on some of those things where we're brought up and see whether progress has been made or additional information is needed to move things forward. So I think there's a lot there, even if P&Z decides they don't want to be involved per se like they were the last time, but I look back and I said, geez, I actually went off pretty good, and there's a lot of meaty information there. So I don't know what you guys thought about that.
Well, did we, if I recall, I think there was a brief progress report of, and that prior meeting,
Mhm.
talking about the plan of conservation and development. And I think that was kind of what we've accomplished so far, what we have not, major issues that were in the plan of conservation that we haven't touched on yet. And then what are the general ideas within the group? Is that I believe that was the format.
Correct.
And are you going to follow in the same direction? And if that's the case, one would see that between that meeting and our current, there would be some additional progress as far as the plan of conservation and development is concerned. I don't know if there is or not, but I think that should be looked at and addressed.
Yes.
Certainly, you don't want the embarrassment of saying that you've gone a whole year and you haven't done a damn thing, but that direction is a way to kick things off, I think. And then any newer ideas would be incorporated, hopefully, in the new version of the plan of conservation and development, should they not be accomplished by the time that thing is published.
Correct. And I think if you look at the list of we come up with, we had breakout groups, as you remember, and the list that came out of all the groups there was a lot of new stuff that could be incorporated into
Right.
TOCD. So what are your thoughts, Maureen?
I agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
You agree with Ray?
Yeah. No,
Good God.
with using what's good from the previous meeting and going forward with that. Yeah.
Now, you intend to have the same, how would you say, eclectic representation from the town of Ashford? Is that the purpose of this as well, or are we going to shut some people off?
No, I think you provided a list, Ray, and I know Gwen had sent some contacts that you had as well. And I think what the town has been about is being inclusive. And I think, I think the more people we have, it's like everything else. If you're building, a rocket ship here, you want to have more input from as many people as possible. And, there may be things that not everybody agrees upon, but I think it's the synergy in and of itself. I think that's what we saw at that last meeting, wasn't it? I mean, we saw some groups that you'd say, geez, how are these groups ever why would they even think about getting together or talking with each other? But they did. And there ended up being some new relationships developed. And actually, if you talk about progress since that meeting, which was, by the way, it was in November of 2019 already, by the way, and time flies. There was I know one, like the Salvation Army group, they ended up partnering with some activities with the rec department and some other groups in town, where they actually ended up having like a fishing derby for kids, and they had some other summer outreach programs and some other activities there where, who would have thought, it really, I thought there's that in of itself to me is some, wonderful things that happened.
Well, they've been typically in this town, they've been sort of silent and very recluse, I guess is a good word. I don't know why they've been that way, because they're taking up space in our town, but it's always been a locked gate. Don't talk to us, we'll do our own thing. But you're right, that kind of opened them up a little bit. And maybe that what they really needed is to have the town, recognize their existence, and put a handout for inclusion.
Yeah. No, and I think, the more list of places and people that you can think of. I'm working on a list I'll get out to you of emails and contacts, and maybe we can work off of that and add to it. But I did find my old, unfortunately, I had a computer crash and I lost my database with all of my listing of everybody, but I've been able to find the email chains that I use. So I'm going back and recreating the list. But unfortunately, 3 years later, things have changed too. So it's kind of trying to update things. So I think we go off the list, the general list that you had originally put together there, Ray, of all the boards and commissions and kind of groups. And then anything else you can fill in of groups that you guys kind of, circles you may run in here in Ashford. I think the more people we can include, the better. I certainly hope that we can get some more representation from like the lake associations. That's a group that we reached out the last time. But we had a lot of our other civic organizations, nonprofits were represented and/or had responded. that were interested or couldn't make it. So I think, you know, that's what's important. We had the churches, we had a couple of churches represented, which I thought was great, post office. So, I mean, you know, I think, you know, we go to a lot of these town meetings, we see the same old faces. It's always good that when you have one of these meetings to see people that you haven't seen before. And I think that to me is part of the power of it all.
Mike, how interested is Jeff in doing this? I mean, you've talked to him before, off and on. Is this something that he's really interested, or is he just blowing smoke here? I mean, this is something that would aid and abet their cause in developing that plan of conservation development, which is their responsibility. And a major responsibility, really, as far as the state is concerned. Are they, I mean, is he saying, sure, let's go? What kind of help do you want? Blah, blah, blah. Or is he kind of cool?
I haven't heard, in fairness, I did reach out to them again late last week, and I haven't heard back. And, you know, I know that, I mean, they have a meeting tonight. And I know that they've got a couple hot items on their agenda that they're working on. So, I mean, you know, and certainly, you know, the plan of conservation development needs to start being worked on probably a year from now, maybe would be a good time to be doing it. But so it's kind of a little early, but in one sense, it's never too early, because you know how things go. 3 years have gone by since this last meeting. So I think, you know, even if they're not want to take an active role in on this meeting, I think we could still kind of do some things that would help them kind of, you know, give them something at the end that says, here's some food for thought. We can still put out, hey, the thing of they're going to be doing a plan of conservation. Is there anybody who wants to be involved in it? Because Ray, you know how much effort's involved in that. It's a lot of work, and it takes not just a couple weeks to work on and do. So, so yeah, I don't. In fairness, I have not heard back, so I don't know. But I'm assuming, you know, he had an interest last time, and I think there'd be some, if not formal interest, at least some casual interest in what goes on. So I still think it's a go for launch. You know, I think it's a matter of picking a date and time here now soon, like we've been talking about for a few months anyhow. So go ahead. I'm sorry, Gwen.
Are we still off limits to the
Hey,
topic
Gwen.
of Cadle Rock at this meeting? Hi. And, you know, I missed the first part of this, and I missed the Cadle Rock meeting last week. So I'm wondering, you know, before we was like way in the distance, we were going to have this meeting, but now we've had this. So was that topic up for discussion?
Yeah, well, we were just kind of talking about, I think they did have the meeting Thursday. I did attend. And I just found out late night that there was a special Board of Selectmen meeting with Willington this evening. And when I got on, it was like the last 2 minutes. I missed really when it went on. But, you know, I think our role here as Our Town, Our Future is really going to be, you know, whatever the Board of Selectmen want us to do. But I think so right now that project is kind of taking its own course. They're looking to apply for a grant for the final remediation of the property. I think one of the things I know that I would say that I brought up was that they should really do a master plan for the property, so that they could really define, you know, figure out what the property is capable of having on it, what the ideas that people would have to put on it, and that you develop a roadmap for the future. So things that are viable, and things that are in the best interest of the community, from a broad cross section of the community. So I think I heard those words the last 2 minutes when I was on their meeting, but I don't know the specifics of what they actually said. But that's going to take its own kind of route. I think we're now I think our path is clear. Is that we really?
I just wanted to mention that we have Yale to fund it, to fund a management plan. They're going to do it for free.
Yeah.
Yale Forestry School.
Yeah, I mean, that's up to the Board of Selectmen or what they want to do, and you know that would be something that would be, you know, some information gathering, whatever. But it's yeah, I mean, I think whatever goes on there is going to be a long duration type of thing. So, but you know, that's up to the Board of Selectmen or what they want to do. I mean, I think what I would say I had recommended with some input from the EDC members was that we look at a long-term strategy that this brownfield money grants program actually offers money for to fund developing this plan, which would incorporate all the things that were discussed at that meeting last Thursday, whether it's trails, whether it's housing, whether it's commercial development, whether it's whatever, solar farms or whatever. I mean, that's what this, a master plan would be capable of evaluating what one could do, so.
Gwen, what do you?
So that's separate. That's separate from our town, our
Yes, it
future.
is, separate from our town, our future.
Okay.
Gwen, question, what's this issue about Yale Forestry? Can you explain that a little bit? That's new to
Well,
me.
because I'm on the Conservation Commission and Steve Marico has extremely long, detailed letters about, assessment of the property and how much is wetlands and anyway, one of the emails I got, and Christina Sebo is very involved in this, mentioned that we will get this free eval. I don't know if you could call it master plan. Maybe it's part of it, a master plan. But it was for, it's not economic development. But it was,
Yeah, the question I would have, Gwen, is what to what length do they go? In other words, what subjects do they really concentrate on? And what are their qualifications for a broad assessment of the property as opposed to one that is geared strictly for, if you will, conservation purposes, which may be a little short-sighted for what we want to do with that property in its current condition.
yes, well, that's why I think it's important for all these groups to get together and hear each other's side. But what I will do is I'll send you the emails that I have gotten. And Cattle Rock is a huge topic, and the people in Conservation Commission seem to be having their own ideas, and the people in Economic Development have theirs, and just to get people to listen to opposing viewpoints. That's why I was wondering, and at this leadership meeting,
I don't think there's any opposing viewpoints, so.
No, I don't either. I think the property of, the property as the limited amount that I know, that property cannot be fully developed because of, of the wetland issues that are on it currently. So from a conservation point of view,
Right.
there probably is a good portion of that cannot be disturbed in any manner at all.
Yeah. There's different percentages, and there may be, closer to the road, there may be some ideas for maybe a limited area for development. I would have to look at all of this information. Everybody has to evaluate, and I'll send you what I have. But I
Thank
just didn't
you.
know if it was something that you even want to be involved with.
No, I mean, our town of future, I mean, we've got, unless the selectmen want us to be more involved in that, I think that right now our role will be this leadership roundtable initiative, which is setting the table for the POCD as well. But I think, trying to develop some synergy and some other opportunities within the community, like, was kind of our mission statement, so I think that at least now our path is clear. The Cattle Rock is another important project, but that's off on the side, and the Board of Selectmen are managing that. And all the things that were brought up the other night, including the forestry plan by Yale, are all good ideas and are, all be part of what that plan looks to look at and develop and come hopefully to some positive opportunities in the future. So all good, I think. So anyhow, other thoughts on the leadership? I think, I think we're probably at this point, just wait for Jeff's feedback, and then, if he wants to have a role like he did the last time, kind of mirror the one we had the last time. I mean, that we've got a lot to kind of feed off of and to move forward on. And I think it would be, and even, I don't know what you guys think about the format we used the last time. You think that worked? We had breakout groups. Did you like that? Do you have any other ideas?
The problem with breakout groups is you cannot, they take up a lot of time in themselves, and they really, what they have to say isn't thoroughly distributed among the total group. That's the problem I have with them.
Yeah.
You have good conversation, you jot them down, you make charts, and you go through all this stuff. At the end, all of the people that are in there, in that room, do not have the full, if you will, feel of what goes on in those breakout groups. Just because it's, you scribble it on a piece of paper, it's quickly lost, is what I'm trying to say. There's no wrap your arms around the whole package kind of a approach to the thing. No summary.
Well, we did put together a summary.
Yeah.
And if you look at a summary, I mean, yeah, there was a lot. You may not know the devils in the details of if you weren't in that group, but I mean, there was a lot of things that were identified.
Oh, yes, I agree.
It would be
Go ahead,
dependent on
Maureen.
the person doing the summary, the person who was summarizing, if they would emphasize what had happened in the group. It wouldn't just be, a list of things. It would be a small amount of input, time constraints, etc. But it was pretty interesting, I thought.
I think like to Ray's point, the thing that I found is that there was so much conversation going on, and so much good stuff going on that it's like you almost didn't want to break up the groups from talking, and then it was like you almost need like another night or something to come back, and we gave ourselves like an hour, 2 hours, I forget what it was, but it was, the night flew by, and then when we got everybody together, it was kind of a rush to get everybody out the door like we had promised. So maybe, depending on what goes on, maybe to your point, Ray, maybe we almost need to have it, part A, part B, and if it comes over that well, and say, hey, instead of having a meeting like we had in November 2019 and not getting back together, maybe you have one in 2019 of November, and then you have another meeting in February or something where you kind of come back and say, okay, we've got these, let's sink into the meat of the matter of these things that are identified. I don't know another way to do it. But I thought there's a lot of good synergy, but I agree. You can't know it all, but if you do it as one big group, you probably don't get through as much. And there's a tendency.
Right.
This way, we had 4 different groups where there were at times at least 4 people or more talking at the same time, getting more information. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
It's a massive undertaking, massive. So
It would be good if we could, this is,
are
would
we
be a
closer? Right.
would be a matter of magic. Would be good if you could, some of the groups could be formed ahead of time, magically. And they could come, pretty well prepared and discuss their points in the bulk of the meeting, as opposed to the few minutes that are left as you're walking out the door. I don't think I think that's feasible, but I just think a lot was lost on the general population there because of the lack of time, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Did we get feedback from the participants before that would help us, direct us going forward? Did people cite that wanted more time, didn't want the groups, et cetera, et cetera?
I got some limited feedback, and that maybe that's a good point, Maureen. Maybe we need to have like a survey at the end or something for people, or follow up in an email or something to get a feedback. But I got feedback after the meeting, and truthfully, it was all positive. People, said we should do this more often. They really appreciated the opportunity to meet the other people. I didn't get any negative feedback. Obviously, maybe people would have want to talk more, but we held them there. Nobody left early, and we had them there for I think over 2 hours. I think we went over time, but the problem we had is we had too many people show up. We had a lot of interest.
I'm not trying to throw a negative out on this.
I know.
All I'm saying, it's a positive action, and it's so infrequent in this town, and probably in many small towns, to get that many people together and that interested in talking and discussing, to throw it away and lose pieces and parts of it that are very valuable. It bothers me. That's all I'm saying. And I don't know what the answer is either.
Well,
you need
I'll be
note
quiet.
takers. You need a note taker at each of these breakout groups.
We had them.
Yep.
And if it's not me, I don't take good notes, but
I think your point though, Ray, I think if we, if the 2020 hadn't happened the way it did, I think we were poised to kind of reconvene, and that was kind of our initial intent. And
yes, it was.
the reality is we could take, to your point, Ray, we could take that list of the things that came out of it. There was, if you notice, I sent you 2 lists, if you open them up tonight, that we had looked at after that meeting. One was the list of all the different groups, and there we had them summarize 1 or 2 things that were their priorities moving forward. And then we actually had things from all the breakout groups kind of categorize them into kind of, if we could, into categories. You could almost take that as the next starting point for this meeting if we wanted to. Even though a lot of time's gone by, that's kind of the bummer of it all. But that could be, to your point, Ray, saying, okay, here's the things that we identified. Where are we? Are these things still relevant? Are these things still with these different groups' priorities?
Well, you mean using that as the preliminary instead of going through what we've accomplished on the plan of conservation development? You're saying use, here are the points that we brought up at the last meeting. Where do we stand on them now?
Yeah, I mean, I
And-
think rather than you could say you do the POCD update, but not as much, be more briefer, and then you basically go through those lists, and you use that as this meeting versus doing breakout groups. You could center it that way, or you could go back and take those same breakout groups we had and say, people, hey, go back, here's the sheets you had, update them type thing. So I don't know, that may be a way to.
That would
Kinda-
consolidate things a little bit possibly.
Right, it might.
But the thing is, by the end of that meeting, the best circumstance would be that everybody leaves that meeting with a good, round, firm summary of what's going on in the minds of the group, as far as all the subjects that are there, whether they scribble it down on a pad or something that we could revisit, if you will, with a mass email. I don't know. I just hate to see good information lost. And it's very easy because, you've got all kinds of variations on a theme when you talk about the people in this town. There's no two people that think alike, no two people that are interested in the same thing. I guess I'll be quiet. Okay.
Ladies, anybody else? Maureen or Gwen?
No. I'm excited about it. People want to move on, and I'm just really excited about doing it. And, we may not be perfect, but we'll keep trying, and we'll get somewhere. We can tweak the way we do it, but
Okay.
we need to do it. So.
Yep. What's
I
Gwen?
remember way back when this group first formed and we were back in Knowlton Hall and we had these groups would break out. First, we would all meet together, have all the chairs together, and then we would break out into 3 or 4 different groups. I remember I photographed this, remember?
Yep.
And we had the charts and people were taking notes. And then I'm trying to remember at the end, didn't we all come back and have the summary?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I remember I spoke one time just a little bit about Langhammer and what we'd accomplished.
Right.
And now we're at a different point in time and we've all been isolated so much, with all these Zooms. And so we don't have as much of a sense really of like, okay, what's been going on with the Tremco Trail or all the different updates in town. So maybe it is a good time for everybody to get back and share and have more continuity, coming together after everybody's been so like divergent, like some groups didn't even meet. They weren't able to do Zoom. So, they were really separate. I'm thinking of the Historical Society when I say that. And then the Conservation Commission, and so once we met outside in chairs, and then we were told we couldn't meet outside with masks. When we couldn't do that, then we were back, so it's would be kind of nice to hear from all these different groups that we don't hear from normally.
Yeah. Would it be possible to put brief summaries in the Citizen so that everybody in the town, is that,
Absolutely.
a feasibility?
That's a good idea.
Just brief, because so much has been accomplished and people need to know that. Yeah, it's good.
Well, if Mike, is there any chance that Maureen's got a real good idea here? If this meeting were to be announced reasonably soon, in other words, let's say you had a month and a half before the actual meeting and you were able to put that in you know, in the flyer, so you've got a couple issues. And what she is saying with you could put not just an entire package, but maybe a summary in two parts, if you will, in the town citizen, to kind of prepare people for it. Would that, and is that what you're getting at, Maureen, I think?
Yeah, yeah.
That would at least get the juices flowing. And also
need-
it advertise the meeting itself, so people wouldn't, you know, they'd know they'd be contacted and invited. And I think that's what we did the last time. We actually had a formal invitation. And they'd be
But-
expecting it.
So, I mean, here's the thing, if we're to get into the October Ashford Citizen, we have a week from today to get something to them.
The 19th is the cutoff.
Right.
So I think we got to pick a date, and it sounds like, I mean, I don't know whether November works for everybody, but it seemed like that we had a pretty good crowd in November of 2019. That would give us the time to kind of beat the bushes and get the invitations out. So I don't know, does somebody want to volunteer to try to draft up something? We'll try to get pick a date. I'll talk with the first selectman's office and see what date in November works for them, and hopefully by then also to track down Jeff, see if he wants to be on board. We don't even need to know that. We can just say have a save the date, like you said in there, Maureen. Do you want to try to draft up something like a save the date? I mean, at this point for the October issue.
I think you
That's
want to
probably all we-
explain.
Huh?
I think you want to explain what it's all about again. And
Yeah,
I think what Maureen is saying is dead on. I think you want to start talking about what it is happened the last time around and kind of summarize it a little bit to make sure that people are aware of what's going to be expected of them.
well, I know this one thing that when EDC wanted to kind of, we used to have something and we wanted to get back then into the citizen, and it took us a little bit to get on there because they basically have a full agenda of people putting stuff in there. So I think whatever, we probably, can't get a full page. And so I think, maybe October is the save the date, and then more information to follow in November, and then just say, hey, but we can't explain it all because we put out something to be the size of the citizen, explain it all. So I think it got to be succinct and then bulleted, the highlights of things. But you want to take a crack at it, or I'll work with you on it, Maureen? What do you think?
Sure, yeah, save the date's a good teaser to start with.
So
Yeah,
why don't we,
sure.
I mean,
Can you tell me the date? Do you know, we don't know the date yet?
no, I mean, we've got to look at the calendars and see what you
Okay.
think is, a time in November, I'm guessing, right? So,
Thanksgiving's a little early. It's the 24th, I think.
correct. An election is the 8th, veterans is the 11th. So the week of the 14th, the week before, sometimes the week of the 14th. One of those,
Yeah,
when
that
probably
probably,
a Friday's out. So you're looking at either like a Wednesday or Thursday, the 16th or 17th.
mhm.
So I'll check with the Board of Selectmen and maybe get back with Jeff as well and see if we can just at least hold the date. And, we got to commit. I mean, here's my thing. We've been talking about this for what, 6-7 months now, and it's kind of keeps on rolling in front of us. And if we don't just finally pick a date certain into the future here, then we'll be talking about fixing a date next month too. So,
I could do Wednesday, but I work Thursday.
okay, so that's good to know.
So I don't get home till 9 on Thursday.
So the 16th is November 16th. Look all in people's calendars, check them.
Yeah,
Yeah, put a circle around it. How's that?
And no matter
Yeah.
what day we pick, somebody's not gonna be able to make it.
That's true. That's true. So if it works for everybody else to do Thursday, I just can't
No,
be.
Glenn,
Fine.
we'll try to,
Oh,
obviously,
And we
We
can ask
want you
Margie.
there, Gwen.
We picked these
Well,
days
Margie,
Monday.
Shady, and Richard, William, we have to ask everybody, and then the selectmen.
Yep.
A lot of people.
Well, you're gonna have a lot of people anyway. And besides Gwen, we want you to make the initial speech.
That's right.
I can take notes. For one of the breakout groups, I can be note taker.
You do great. You do great. It's Maureen's turn anyhow, so don't worry about it. Oh, okay, so Maureen, if you want to draft something to save the date, I sent some information, the invitation letter from the last time, which is probably,
Okay,
it's got some good stuff in it. I
When
think.
did you send all this stuff, Michael?
I sent it
Okay.
late. this
I'll
afternoon.
send you a. draft.
If you look at, I sent it probably after 5 o'clock
Yeah,
today.
I
Oh,
just got it.
today.
too.
I didn't get
Yeah,
a chance to read it all yet.
I know, so I
Okay.
mean, I've been
Is that-
just swamped with, being retired, it's not easy. You got a lot of things you gotta do,
Yeah, there's more work when you're retired.
It is. It's like I don't have any free time, it seems, so I've been working on a bunch of different things and I find, so I gotta get this out to everybody, so. But anyhow, and I came across it by accident, so that probably prompted my way to get to you. But take a look at it. We'll get something together by the end of the week. We should get something, obviously, get it to, by Friday, we need to get
Okay.
something to the crew, so, we'll work on
All
it.
right.
Any other thoughts?
sounds good.
Tentatively the 16th of November. And maybe we'll look at Knowlton Hall, see if we can use that as a venue.
That
Right.
would be better, I think, than the,
Yeah.
that room downstairs was pretty packed.
Yeah, we kind of, I think we got more people than we thought, so which is good. Good problem to have. Okay, so any other thoughts? Okay, great. We got some things to work on, and again, keep on pulling together any emails or addresses of people that groups. I had to go scour the internet basically to find some contacts like Boy Scouts and things like that, because a lot of things, even for the lake associations. So if you know of any groups out there, Maureen or Bray, Gwen, that you think should be invited, and somebody to contact, get it to me, and I'll shoot out the list I have so far in the next few days, and we'll go from there.
You were talking in your agenda, you had a comment there about new members.
Yes.
That, as my granny would say, that's as scarce as hen's teeth. But I'm wondering if we could be a little proactive and make an invite to the chairman of every commission and organization in town to see if they, and actually invite the chairman or at their discretion, members to participate. I wonder if that would churn up some people that at least have a direct interest in the town.
You're talking about for what? For the leadership meeting or our meeting?
No. For OTOF, you want
Okay.
members.
Yep.
You're not, the idea of going out and canvassing raw people, if you will, that you don't know if they have any interest, have never volunteered for anything, don't want to volunteer for anything, as opposed to people we already do know and do have if you will, a role in some measure in something active in town. Why not give them a shot? Even if they refuse, they may have someone in their midst that is of interest, whether it be maybe a son or a daughter or an uncle or an aunt or somebody on the commission that they're dealing with that has an interest in what OTF can produce. So just a thought.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, getting volunteers these days is tough. I know that like the town even has three job openings that they've been having a hard time getting anybody to even apply to. So it's just tough all over. I'm just crazy times, So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, if that's what we've been asking. If you know of somebody that is interested, a neighbor, a friend, yeah, it's love to have more people involved. That's for sure. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else? Maureen, Gwen? Okay. Appreciate your time here this evening. It's good. I think we got a few things going here, and
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, everybody.
appreciate it. Take care. Have a good
Take care.
evening.
Good night.
Good seeing
Good night.
everybody. Good night.
Night.